Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special Best Practices webinar, Becoming a Top Transportation Team. This is our sixth season. We started this back in 2020 in the midst of COVID, and it hasn't stopped. And our last one we did was in May during live from Nashville at ACS, and took the summer to give you all a break because we know that summer is very busy for everybody getting ready for the fall. And we just came off the heels of our third Top Transportation Teams Award that was awarded at Reno, Nevada. And we have these were amazing winners. I'll just tell you really quickly that competition was stiffer than ever. We had more participants than ever. We had higher rates of participation than ever. We had more districts participating than ever. So every year it has gotten more and more competitive. And so these are the best of the best. And so we are super excited to have three panelists today. And then we have three more panelists next month. And they're going to share their stories. And, they're even going to share some of their secret sauce, which, could be counterintuitive because, as I said, competition is getting tougher. And now here they are. They may hold back a tip or two. I don't know. Amy, are you going to hold back a tip or two? Or are you okay with, she's contemplating there. But but we are just excited because I can tell you at Reno, they sat down with Transfinder President and CEO Antonio Civitella. They had a very wonderful, lively conversation. And I know that we only touched the tip of the iceberg. So if you happen to watch that, we streamed it live on our Facebook page. I can promise you that there's more, a lot more insights that we didn't even get to. A couple of housekeeping things here. We're using Zoom for the very first time for the Best Practices webinar series. This is where we're going to be from now on. And if you have a question you want to share, please use not the chat, but the Q&A. I'm monitoring those, and you see Arnold, his icon there, Arnold. You can give a wave if you want. He's working the back end, and so we'll both be addressing those questions. And I'll also bring them to the forefront and ask people if you have a specific question for a specific person, or if you have it for the whole panel. I'll be sure and get to those really as soon as possible. In fact, just to test this thing, people, tell me where you are right now and what the temperature is in your neck of the woods, as the weathermen like to say. I'd like to just see if we can start to get some feedback here. I'm going to keep moving though. It's my pleasure to welcome. Oh, there we go. Pennsylvania at 68 and sunny. San Angelo, Texas, 73. Marysville, 77. Georgetown, Texas, 83. Leesburg, 73. Virginia there. All right, awesome. Long Island, 78 degrees. All right. Alexa, what's the temperature in Schenectady, New York?
Good morning, Rick. Right now, it's 71.
71 degrees in Schenectady. Alexa just said that. A high of 82 degrees. Anyway, so thank you so much for joining us. So here we go. I want to introduce our panelists now, our three of the six winners. Arnold, you can go to the next slide. We have Amy from Wa-Nee Community Schools, and Amy has a distinction of being two-time winner, back-to-back winner. So that I'm still getting the degrees. This is awesome. In Colorado, 72 degrees. Amy, they are back-to-back winners. And next up, I'd like to introduce Julie Lawson, and they are two-time winners as well. So they are the only two of the two-time winners we have. So next month, we'll have other panelists, but only these two folks here have won this award twice. Pembroke did not participate last year. I don't know why, Julie, but but they won in the very first year, and they won last year, and I know they want to win in 2026. And last but not least is Brad Hayn, and Brad is Transportation Director at Hoover City Schools in Alabama. So I'm going to ask each of the panelists to just tell us a little bit about your career path. I'm going to start with Brad. A little bit about your career path, and then tell us a little bit about the school district that you serve. And then we'll get deep into your culture, what you did to make it a winning team.
Well, I'm glad you let
Brad.
me go first because I'm feeling kind of inadequate that we're not a two-time winner at this point. So, but
Next
so
year.
yeah, next year. So Hoover City Schools in Alabama. It's basically a suburb of Birmingham on the southern side. So this is 29 years in education for me. I started as a teacher and coach and then moved into an administrative role, which I was a building administrator for 17 years. Generally within my building administrator role, I was operations of some sort. So I did buses some years, did building operations, things along those lines. But I first got my bus license back in 1997. So driving as a coach and things along those lines. And just really had an opportunity to move into this role last June, so a little over a year ago. So that'd been June of 24. Moved into the transportation role here at Hoover. A little bit about the school system. We're about 15,000 students overall. We run, just got some numbers here. We have 165 employees within our department. On a daily basis, we have 398 daily trips, over 5,000 stops, which rolls out to over 6,500 miles each day and puts us almost at a little over 1.1 million miles a year. So that's kind of what we're rolling at. Kind of a little bit about our school system. I think the last time they did a survey, I think we were at 49 different languages were spoken in our school district by students. So very, very diverse. But we also always have a large a number of national merit scholars and things along those lines. So also very high academic, but we also have things, since we also provide transfer to our own career tech center, things along those lines during the day. So we're running all day long, AM, PM, middays, the whole bit.
Awesome. You have a unique background.
It's a little bit different than what I've really met from a lot of people in transportation. I've come to realize that over the last year that, coming from the school into transportation is a little bit of a different perspective.
Very good. Thanks so much, Brad. We'll get deeper into it. I know that you have had some unique approaches to how you can really change the climate in your office, and it's paying off, obviously. Amy, tell us a little bit about your career path as well as Wa-Nee.
All right. Well, I think I'll work backwards since I can't remember much past yesterday. I've been in this role 20 years now as the director. Prior to that, I took a break from transportation here at Wa-Nee. I was in higher ed over in Ashland, Ohio. Before that, I was a bus driver here. So like Brad, I started in 97 as well. That was probably my favorite job as a bus driver. Before that, I was in banking. I was a very young bank manager. But I left that to drive bus and be with my kids more. So I think that's a really important part about bus driving is you can be a mom and be with your kids quite a bit. So love this industry, love the people of transportation for sure. It's by far my favorite. So Wa-Nee Community Schools is a smaller rural community. We're in northern Indiana. We're pretty much in the triangle of Detroit, Indianapolis, and Chicago. So we can cheer for either the Lions or the Colts or the Bears, depending on where you are. We service probably 80% of the kids that go to our school. Our district is 247 square miles, so a lot of country miles, a lot of fog, a lot of snow, a lot of ice up here. So we have great people. That's probably our best thing going for us is we just have really, really good people. And I would say that's probably where we hang our hat is really, really good people in the area.
That's great. Thanks so much. And last but not least, Julie.
Hi. I actually worked for this district for about 28 years. This is my third year being transportation supervisor. I've always wanted to drive a bus, and like Amy said, it's good to be with your kids. So it's nice because you have holidays off and all the same time frames that your kids are off. So that was it for me. We are a rural district. We have just a little over 1,000 students, and I have 21 full-time drivers.
Julie, can you get a little closer to the mic because I'm hearing and scream. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay.
Pretend that you're on a school bus and kids are being loud in the back and they gotta like quiet down.
Yeah. We're a rural district for sure. We're located in between Buffalo and Rochester. We deal with all this weather too, the blizzard of 77, that was, a big thing, where everybody was stranded and, but yes, like I said, I've been a bus driver I started 28 years ago, but the last 3 years I've been the, transportation supervisor. So, it's a great rewarding job. I love it. I love everything about it.
Great. Thank you so much. I was thinking both when Amy and Julie were talking about um, being able to be a mom and still, how it gave you that flexibility. I bet like your kids' rowdiness probably seemed like nothing after driving a bus, right? You probably feel like, oh, this is not, I can handle a couple kids at home.
Right.
So I'm going to start with you, Julie, and I'm going to go just down the line, and then we'll just have much more of a conversation where, just freewheeling. But I want each of you to describe, how would you describe your department's culture? And I'm just going to go in the reverse order here. So Julie, Amy, and then Brad. Tell me, you can one word you can use, however you want to describe your department's culture.
Well, we're a really small community. So everyone knows everyone. You're related to someone. You have parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins. And it's wonderful. And it's just makes life so much easier actually when you got that relationship with everyone. So it's just we have a lot of connection with each other. So like a lot of times, we'll have parents stopping in and just saying hi or dropping off a little bit of food, just to get us through the day. It's just amazing. I actually love the small community that we have.
You said pizza is a big part of life in the department.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very good. Amy, how about you? How would you describe your culture?
Yeah, I think I could echo Julie's area as well. Food. We're in the Amish community, so lots of beef and noodles around here. So we also have a really high standard of excellence. That's actually our school's motto. And so the culture here is just there's a high expectation of our district. We're a leader in the state when it comes to testing and athletics, the music department. So our culture here just has a lot of expectations that we're going to do things right all the time. So um, that puts a lot of pressure on us too, but it also helps us raise the bar and stay up there too. So helps us draw some good people and keep that bar high.
That's great. It's a lot of pressure too.
True. That is true.
Do you feel, I mean, I know we're going off script a little bit, but do you feel like you get this, not with great expectations? I think sometimes there's a hope at least that you get great resources, great, support as well. Do you feel like you have that from the higher ups?
Absolutely. Yep. I inherited that here. We've had incredible support from top down, whether it's benefits and pay, which is a huge support for us. But we also have really good communication and support. I always call that road between the bus and the schools is definitely connected. So
Oh, I like that.
yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
How about you, Brad? How would you
Yeah,
describe the
so
culture?
yeah, so for us here at Hoover in the department, so I said I had 165 employees. That's by far the smallest group of people I've ever worked with. I mean, the last school I was at had over 3,000 students, and we had over 1,000 adults in and out of the building all day long. So that's, so as I came to the department, so when I talk about this, it really is important because we work really hard when we're large to make it small. So I would say if I was going to think of one word, it's family. I tell them all the time in the department that my personal order of priorities are faith, family, and then everything else. And when those get out of whack for me and my life becomes turmoil. So the department's no different. When we keep our priorities of faith and family and then everything else in order, then our culture operates at a high level. So when people know you care about them, and that's one thing I really focus on, even though it's a large number of people, is, making that one-on-one connection, that personal connection. Because when people know you care about them as a person first, and they contribute to the team in a positive fashion, and they bring more to the table in order to establish a high functioning culture. So building those one-on-one relationships is kind of really my focus on a daily basis to build our culture.
That's great. Now you also mentioned we did a dry run yesterday, and Julie was like, I wish I recorded this. This was a great conversation. Every conversation takes on a new life. Brad, you mentioned also just about that positivity and like meeting people in the parking lot even and just talking to them, not just about work, but even like how did your doctor's appointment go, or you had a sick parent and how is he or she doing, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so it's, it ultimately, it comes down to, it's all about the people. And I think any leader will tell you that when it comes to the functioning of their department. And, when I try to make it around, we have different park locations around the district. So not everybody comes to the same location every day. So I have kind of a schedule that I have in the back of my mind that I follow to get out to the different schools. And because we've got 17 different campuses and we've got 7 different parking locations. But when I see people, my first thing I tell them is not, hey, your route's doing this, or we need you to address this with this school or whatever. It's always, I start with the personal first. Try to learn those personal items. Hey, how's your family doing? Hey, how's your child doing at school down at, X, Y, and Z university? And add those personal touches when I first meet them. Because again, that's all about building the relationship, because it is all about the people. And the people will always tell you about the culture from what they say, what they don't say, to their body language, all those kinds of things. And it all communicates about the culture. So as you build those personal relationships as a leader, it is our responsibility to set that tone, but the people ultimately will define it. And, engaging them on a personal level and getting to build those relationships and do that, then that helps create more positivity, because it lets them know that you do care and it creates that relationship. So, as a leader, you need to empower those people. And that's really what we work hard to do on a daily basis by building those personal relationships. I have one person in the office, their whole job is to tell me when I have a driver that is returning to work after being out for an illness, or they've had a death in the family or whatever. Her whole job is every morning when I come in at 5:45 to say, hey, you need to go visit bus 2306 today, because remember, their back is their first day. So then at that point, I'm out, I'm going to see them. And the first thing I'm asking them is, how are you feeling today? Or, hey, I'm sorry about your loss. Or, again, it's all about the personal.
I know somebody who recently came back from not a Transfinder. It's a friend of mine who came back from being off for the Family Leave Act for having a baby, and some of her colleagues said nice things, but none of the higher ups did, and she was a little bit like, "Wow, my boss didn't even say congratulations," or people do
Right.
notice those things. Um, I uh, I text. I sometimes I've had to learn how to improve my texting. Not just from my daughter, who, if I didn't put a smiley emoji, then just writing okay meant I was mad. I didn't know that. That's a new one. But the other was just, I would ask someone to do something and I would forget. So I remember one time saying, hey, did you set those chairs up yet or something? And they got back to me and said, good morning, Rick. And then they answered the question. And they weren't being rude or anything. They weren't trying to send me a message. I talked to them about it later. I go, I learned to like delete, and start by, good morning, so and so.
Right.
I hope you had a good night, and
Yep.
then ask my question.
It's
So
so funny you mentioned that, because when I send out my texts and communicate to sub drivers and stuff, I always have to go back and remember, put good morning first.
yeah, so I'm not alone. Good to know.
No.
Sean asked a question about, by the way, this meeting is being recorded. It is. I'm sorry I didn't mention that at the outset. So yes, it will be available on our YouTube channel tomorrow. You can find that, and sometimes as early as today. And you can find the YouTube channel very easily by just going to transfinder.com. And then at the very top on the left is the YouTube icon. And it'll take you right there. I'm going to ask you guys a question. We're going to talk over this poll question I'm going to put up. Arnold, who is our amazing, he's helping out a huge amount. He's in our sales enablement team. And so I want to get a pulse of the people who are attending now, and we'll talk over this a little bit. But how would you describe your transportation team's culture? Is it outstanding? I got first couple votes coming in. Good, getting better. That's great. Fair, stagnant, not good, getting worse, or just bad. It's not getting worse. It's just bad. So we'll let it stay up there for a little bit while we talk over it, because I want to hear from you, Arnold. Maybe a minute or so if you want to close it out. So I'd like to know, what do you think contributed to your department being having a top culture. I'm going to start with Amy, and then we'll go around the horn here. Amy, what do you think contributed to your district's top culture?
Well, I think, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of it had to do with the quality benefits and the pay. I think that drew good people to begin with, but as that sort of settled in, then I think, like Brad said, the relationship piece had to become more prevalent. And I found very quickly that if the relationship piece was not there, when hard discussions had to happen, if the relationship was gone, then the discussion didn't go well. But if the relationship there was already a foundation of relationship, then you could have those tough discussions when things did not go well. We tell the drivers the same thing: build the relationship with the kids so that when you have to have the discipline piece move in, you can build off of the relationship you've built with the kid. Hey, I know that you are doing really well on a daily basis, but what happened today doesn't comply to, what we would normally say is good behavior on the bus. So same thing with our driving staff. Um, we we had to get to the point where we had to build relationships very intentionally, because our old office sat in admin and we didn't have a garage. We didn't have a central location where anybody could meet at any point. Everybody was parking at home. We rarely got to see each other, maybe once or twice a year at meetings. That's definitely improved now that the corporation was able to build a garage for us. So we're seeing each other more, which is definitely a plus for us too. We're getting to see each other more and more, um, and having more relationship building intentional insight on site as well too. So
It's funny. Locate. You just made me think of something. How important location is too. Um, I read the biography of Steve Jobs, and it wasn't for. I don't think it was Apple, but it was one of the other companies that he started up in that same period. And they made the bathroom. There was a big sprawling campus, or a building. It was a big, huge building, and they made the bathroom. They put the bathrooms in the middle, so that both sides, like the developers and the various departments, would actually be meeting, bumping into each other there. So that helped actually get people to know one another a little bit. So anyway, just location, having a, improved workspace. Brad, why don't you just tell a little bit about, well, I'm sorry, Amy, were you going to say something?
well, it's just not all of us. That doesn't always come naturally to all of us. Like you guys said, you have to intentionally backspace and put good morning in, and that's okay. Like some of us are type A, we're very task oriented, and trust us, transportation, there's a lot to accomplish. We all know that. I mean, we run multi-million dollar organizations. So, I mean, it's okay to lean on other people like Brad does to help us keep that in the forefront.
Yeah. Brad, I mean, you improved the meeting area, right? Right off the bat when you came in.
Yeah, because I walked in and the first thing I looked at is, most of our trainings are not just 30 minutes, it's 2 to 4 hours in reference to transportation. And I took one look at the seats and I said, like, those are the same seats I sat in when I was in fifth grade. I don't want to sit in them now. So that's kind of, I was like, so we upgraded the chairs and things like that. And
You also
then,
painted the walls. I tell them about
yeah,
the
we
wall. I think that's
painted.
so creative.
And then we also, upgraded the break room and things along those lines. But it's not like I just came up with those ideas myself. Because one thing I was willing to do was to survey my people and let them tell me what they thought. And I think that's very important. And that's something I'm going to do every year. And then I take those survey results and they drive what I do in reference to culture. Because it is.
So what he did was he painted the break, but you didn't tell the break room story. You painted it two different shades of blue that represented the two different blues of your high school, correct?
Yeah, so yeah, well, we have different colors that represent all of our high schools here. So yeah, we did all of that. It's just little things like that to get things, to represent what people do on both sides. We also, when we do shirts and things, we do them in the two different sets of colors for each side of town, the feeder patterns and things like that, just to really get people to be involved.
That's great. That's awesome. I'm going to give the survey results real quick, and I wanted Brad, just to give you a shout out. Heather said um, she loved the idea, what you talked about in terms of starting with the person first. So she goes, I'm stealing that. So very good.
And,
Um,
and I will say I'm an open book. Everything's open to be stolen because I steal from everybody else.
That's great.
So
Awesome. I want to get the survey results and then I'm gonna we'll move on. So we had 63% said that their culture was good and getting better, so that's a good thing. 24% said it was fair and stagnant. 8% said outstanding, and 2%, I'm sorry, 5% said not good and getting worse. No one said bad. So I guess looking at the glass being half empty, half full, nobody said it was bad. Said not good, and getting worse. So hopefully they won't continue in that direction. All right. Um, who else? What contributed to your Julie? Tell me a little bit about what contributed to your district having such a top culture.
I think it's just consistency. And actually, a lot of our drivers have been there like pushing 30 years. So it's the same people that, you know, that help keep things rolling. It's just, like for instance, okay, so I just have a little story to tell. One of the drivers came in the other day and said that they had a neighborhood picnic. And, they said that the parents just love the bus driver that does their route. And that, to me, that melts my heart. I'm like the mama bear. I love hearing all that stuff, all the good things. So I think it's just consistency. And when I first started, there was a couple drivers that really just didn't come in to the break room. And when I took over, I would always invite them and say, hey, why don't you come in and sit with us. And eventually they started to come, and now we sit at the table, we laugh, we joke, we bring food all the time. There's always somebody bringing something. And it's just, I feel that we've gotten connected even more. So it's just kind of good experience.
That is great. Um, are there some things that we have people who are watching this who come to those different characters, some are good and getting better, but some are stagnant. So I think maybe there's some tips here that you guys can share with me. Are there some things that you can do or not do? So maybe there's things that you're doing that are not contributing to a great culture that, maybe, you know, um, somebody might share it with you and say, hey, this isn't working so well or whatever. Are there some things that you shouldn't be doing, or are there things that you can be doing to improve your culture? So, and again, don't be shy about sharing big ticket items. Everybody wants a new shiny bus. But there may be some other small things like, Friday, pizzas or something like that. So anything that you've done or you're looking to do as you're starting this new school year to kind of build on this win. I'm going to start with Amy again, and then we'll go to Julie and Brad. What kind of things can you do to improve your culture?
Well, in Indiana right now, we're under a little bit, I suppose everybody is, financial crunch. So we've been looking for things that don't cost money. So we've been doing a lot of emails like Brad mentioned, when there's a birthday or an anniversary or things like that. We're doing emails. We're making sure that people are aware of those things so that the general community within the transportation department can be aware so that they can reach out to each other. We're also doing that interdepartmentally, so with the tech department and the custodians, food service, those kinds of things. So we're seeing more communication within those departments as well. So I think it just helps the overall community and the school corporation, and it helps the drivers feel more connected. I mean, obviously they're out there in their own ship and they sometimes don't get to feel connected to the building. But when they start to see some of those emails going back and forth, it's connecting them more with the greater school community too.
That's great. Julie, how about you?
Well, I think that it goes back to just sitting at the table and just talking and getting their ideas from them. And if they have something bother them, then we can sit there and just talk about it and work it through. We have a birthday, board, I guess you would call it, where one driver, she just takes care of everything, and they put on, when their birthdays are, their anniversaries. It was kind of funny because I didn't expect to see that. Usually it's just a birthday, but someone knew that it was, their another driver's anniversary, so they put that on there. So I thought that was kind of cute. But it makes them feel appreciated when you can sit around and talk to them and say, hey, wow, they knew my anniversary. How did they know that? So I think it's just trying to connect with everybody makes it so much better.
That's great. Brad?
Yeah, I think ultimately, we all have the same mission, and that's to transport students safely to and from school every day. So that is our mission. That's what we do, right? In essence, that's boiling it down. But when it comes to culture, I came into a situation, having only been here for over a year, that it was basically a closed door policy. In other words, don't come to the office and ask for anything. The answer is no. So I spent 6 months changing that. My door is always open unless I'm doing something like this, and they know that. My door's shut, I'm working on something probably online or talking or whatever. But outside of that, my door is always open. And that's kind of getting back to those surveys I send out. I want them to be honest with me, and I did in turn share those results with them. And then what we do as a department is driven based upon what they give me feedback wise. One of the things that it's a simple thing, doesn't cost money. We have 2 lanes that run out of one of our high school. They've always been told in the past they had to stay in the right lane. When the left lane, both of them are guided and both of them are very safe. I said, use both lanes. That's fine, because there's no reason why they shouldn't. So, it's small things like that. And ultimately it comes down to this for me. Can we maintain that safety and make their job easier? Then ultimately, we need to make it happen. And whatever your decision making. So, that's really kind of what I use to guide my decision making. Am I making their life easier? And is it still maintaining the safety? Because if I can do those 2 things, then the answer needs to be yes. And I need to figure out how to make it yes. It's real easy to just say no and move on. But we need to be in the business of trying to figure out ways to say yes more often.
It reminds me of when we were early parents, my wife and I, we went to this one parenting class, and it was like, a lot of times you say no, right? You can't, no, you can't have ice cream before dinner, or no. But they go, most of the time you're saying yes. It's just you don't verbalize it. So I remember
Right.
I went through a little stick where I was like, yes, you can walk to the living room. Yes, you can pick up that toy. Yes, you can bounce the ball. Yeah. Because I'm like, they're not hearing me say yes enough. So
Right.
the point is, I like what you're saying, that not to have a knee-jerk reaction of, no, we've always done it this way. You actually took a step back, had a fresh set of eyes, which is one of the nice things about being a new person in that
Yep.
department too, is you could look back and say, well, I wonder why that's the rule. You heard this person who's in some respects more expert on that route, right? Because it's his route or her route. And then you were able to empower them. I know that's an
Yep.
overused word these days, but you literally empowered that person.
Right. And I think it's important as a leader, we all are going to have a non-negotiable. Hey, I want it this way. It's got to be this way. This is a non-negotiable. Well, if you have that, but you told them yes to the 10 previous items, then when you give them that non-negotiable, they're not hearing no, they're hearing that's the way we're going to do it. And I understand and I respect that, because all along they have respected my opinion and my wants and needs. Now I got
to say, he's a fair guy. So
right.
He's not just saying no to say no.
Right.
You also talked about investments. Not everything is going to be free, right? And you talked about you added 2 big things going. You switched to add technology.
Yep.
No commercial here, but you did mention Transfinder and Wayfinder, the driver
I
app.
did.
Those kind of things.
Yes.
Those kind of things help contribute to.
Yes, and I would say
culture.
that's kind of the big thing that we've done this year. We made the move to Transfinder 1. And then, we just went all in on Wayfinder and putting tablets and doing the Wayfinder app and using that for route guidance as our drivers drive. And I would say, is it 100% yet? No. But has it been 100% a positive move for our drivers? Yes. That's huge for them in so many ways. And it's really created an excitement and an energy in our department, because you know what? We're not being satisfied with where we are. We're always looking for ways to be better. And this is something directly when I first came in last June that several drivers said to me, why can't we do an app or do GPS directions and things like that on a bus? So here we are. It's what they wanted. So here we are, we're doing it. And I think that's the key. It wasn't what I wanted, it's what they wanted.
That's great. That's great. Julie, you mentioned a hard decision you had to make in terms of combining routes. And you brought the drivers in. I think you even mentioned a third driver came in and was part of the solution. Share a little bit about that story, because that's a great example of like a really healthy, we talk about like a great culture. I haven't really used the word healthy, but I think that is a great picture of a super healthy culture. Share us,
Yeah.
share that story with us.
Well, it's,
And talk really loud. Just get a little
okay.
bit, because it's good stuff.
Last year was pretty tough for us because we didn't have enough drivers to cover all the runs. So we were always scrambling and trying to, put this person on this route and, maybe I can get that, we're just going back and forth trying to figure it all out. But I mean, in the end of June, we were all just wiped out because we're just tired. And so I called a couple drivers in that I, have to, regroup their run. And I actually had a senior driver come in and she said to me, she goes, I'm gonna help you. She said, because she saw how tough it was. And who wants more kids? I think I just give her so much kudos for that because she just volunteered to take these kids. She knew it would work for her. So she came in and we sat down with the drivers and we said, okay, you can take the north side, you can take the south side. I mean, it just worked out and it's beautiful. And at the end of the day, I said to her, thank you. Thank you so much. And she's a veteran driver, she's been here over 20 years. And for somebody to come in and just volunteer to take that, I mean, it gets my heart a little.
That's
so
great.
I'm thankful for her. I'm thankful for everybody here because they've all been great.
That's awesome. Well, they can probably sense that, and that makes them want to come back to work too. We got a question from West who asked, how do each of you handle the competitive dynamic of having multiple terminals? How do you deal with that? And are we talking about, when we talk about terminals, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about, um, is that, Wes, can you tell me what you mean by that? I mean, Brad, do you have a sense of what he means by that?
Yeah, so I was actually kind of looking at that question just now, and I was just, so the way I view it for us is we have 7 different park locations, right?
Got it.
One of the things that I look at that is, that's the individual interactions that I get out in those locations. Once every couple of weeks, I'm able to hit them all or whatever and build those relationships. But when you're out there, they're going to share with you what's going on in that location because each location has its own personality. But one thing that I've really tried to do since coming in this position is develop a leadership team that each one of those locations is represented on that team. And we meet monthly and we just spend an hour talking. I may have an agenda where I'll take about 20 minutes and share, hey, this is what's going on department wide. And then I want to open it up to them for the last 40 minutes and let's just have a conversation and about what's going on. And it truly is a time to be honest. And it takes time to build that, but through those individual visits, I'm hopefully building up that idea that when we meet as a leadership team, that they walk in and they say they're willing to be honest with me and tell me what's going on so we can work together to solve problems instead of each group being isolated on their own. I think the other part of that too is when you have that team, it lets them know that they may have a concern, but they don't realize another park location has the same concern or it's having the same issue, but they've solved it. So here's how we can maybe look at this location.
That's great. So you kind of build it into helping one another, and that kind of reduces that feeling of, on a football team, the offense is not competing with the defense. Like they both have jobs to do and they both want, to help the other, the defense wants to get off the field as quickly as possible, give it back to the offense. But
that's a great way to look at it because instead of 3 phases of the game of football, I have 7 locations. I have 7 phases every day to make us successful.
That's great. Amy or Julie, anything you want to add to that?
I can't really because we don't have that competition. Most we have are 2 Amish churches that get in a fight. We got to separate the kids on the bus. So we don't have a competition between our kids, but.
Yep. All right. Julie, anything? Nope.
No.
All right.
I can speak back to what Brad was saying just about supporting your drivers. I know that there's going to come a time as employers we're going to have to do that top-down employer discipline module, but around here in this office, we work for the drivers because we've all sat in the seat. We know how hard the job is. So we work daily to figure out how we could make that job easier. And so when the phone rings and they're yelling at us about something the driver did, we know what it was like to sit in the seat and be the driver. So we can say, well, you say the driver missed the kid. Well, it was dark and it was raining and your kid was late for the bus stop. So we can explain why that happens to them and buffer between us and the driver. We just often say we work for you, the bus driver, rather than take that real hardcore employer, you work for us, you're going to do what we tell you to do kind of thing. And I think the drivers understand that we're working for them. And then when things do get rough, they understand that back and forth dialogue. I always tell them I'll defend you until I can't. So, and they know
Ooh,
that. They
that's a
know we
good,
have their back.
that's a great line, actually. I like that line.
Mhm.
Um, okay. I want to get into, you won this great award. Very, you were recognized, you were in press releases. I know some of you have been on TV or in the newspaper. Um, and that's awesome. And I wanted to get a sense of, um, how you were celebrated both within your district from either the administration or school board. And I'm sharing this because we have a lot of people who are on, and I'm hoping that they all will register for top teams as well. And some of them I maybe don't know what you get when you win a top. Besides, you get a free trip to, Reno, Nevada. All expense paid for one team member, which I think all of you, all the leaders actually came this year, which was awesome. Um, Free scholarship to attend STN Expo, which is I think like $1,000. Um, but on terms of coming back home, you go to all this training, you get to hear a lot of things at the expo. There was, I don't know, we didn't even talk about that yesterday, but what you may have learned. But coming back home, you come back to a hero's welcome, I think. Um, Share a little bit about how you were celebrated, um, even within your team, within your administration, within your community. And I'm going to start with Amy and then go to Brad and Julie. Amy, what did people notice you guys won?
Yeah, we had some call outs at administrative meetings. I had a couple really nice emails from board members, but I'm not gonna lie, I think there's sort of a mentality of congratulations, you did your job, if that's what you're supposed
Uh-huh.
to do.
Okay. That
We didn't get any t-shirts or pizza parties or anything like that, but um I mean, I think there's, like I said, there's that excellence standard around here. So, not a big confetti parade for us, but um, a lot of nods, I think, from people in the community that were just like, "Congratulations, that was well deserved," because we know you do a good job for us. We
Now,
like
how
to do
about
that.
within your own team? Because now, did you guys do things within your own? Just say, hey, look at, maybe we're not getting it out there, but in here, I want you guys to
Yeah.
know.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we had a lot of pride moments within our department, and um, a lot of us are often stating like, okay, we got to make sure that we're holding up to the standard, and is that what a top team would do and behave, and a top
Oh,
driver would a top driver behave like that or not behave like that? So
ooh, I
yeah,
like that. I used to do that to my kids, and I'm doing it again. Like, when my son goes from kindergarten to first grade, I'm like, you're not a kindergartner anymore. You can't do. And then it's like, you're not in middle school anymore. It's like, when do I ever get to do the what I want to do? I'm not anything. It's like, but you are always constantly raising the bar. We'll talk about that in another question down the road. But I like that you're actually using it as encouragement, but also an admonishment.
yeah, they're doing a great job. So
Awesome, Brad.
Yeah, so I learned long ago in administration, especially with the advent of social media, because all of us were around before social media was really what it is today, right?
Yeah.
So the whole news cycle has changed. So from our standpoint, it's always been if we don't define our story, then somebody else will, right?
yeah,
So one thing I've worked really hard with is I've got a great relationship with our PR staff. And so we've been recognized at the board meeting. We've been celebrated in social media posts. We've had 3 of our local television stations do stories on it. In fact, now that we've started a Wayfinder and we're about 6 weeks in, they're coming back Monday to do another story on where we are. I worked with 2 of our vendors. So when I got here, I was surprised to hear that nobody had ever provided t-shirts to our department ever. like giving them a t-shirt or anything. So two of our vendors stepped up to the plate and bought t-shirts to celebrate top transportation teams.
That's awesome.
But again, eventually we're all going to have something come up that's probably not the most positive story in the world, right? But anytime I can put out a positive story, I do that, and I'm willing to do that. My PR person says, "Have you ever met a camera you didn't like?" And I said, "Yes, all the time," because I am by nature a very introverted person. But I also know that if I'm going to increase how many drivers I have, increase my personnel, create a more positive relationship with the community, I've got to do those positive stories. So that, like I said, we've got another one coming on Monday, which I know Rick was happy to hear. So he's
Share those links with me.
Yeah.
Share 'em, tag us.
You have to be willing to do that.
Yes, even if it's outside of your comfort zone. I know a lot of people I've talked to in transportation who are like, I don't like the media, and I understand that. I would rather not have to do that, but it's for the good of your team. You're doing it for your team.
Yeah, and every time there's a positive news story, guess what? The bus driver's neighbor said, "Hey, I saw your department on the news. That's great. Congratulations." So then what happens? It makes them feel better, which all leads back to culture.
Very good. You also talked about you have banners with the top transportation teams at all those schools.
Yeah, those vendors helped us have banners made that are hanging around the different schools. So as the drivers pull into their bus lineup, they see the sign that says, "Congratulations, Top Transportation Team North America 2025."
I mean, hey, you go to your gym and you see when the basketball team won the championship, and that never gets old, right? I mean,
No.
So Julie, how about you? You got some recognition from the top down.
Yeah, and I have to say that our superintendent, he's just an awesome man. He's kind, he's friendly, he's down to earth. We have a lot of respect for him. We have a superintendent's day meeting the day before school starts. And when we went there, it was so nice. We had the picture of us, all the winners standing there on the big screen. He recognized us. He called me down. He gave us a gift card for pizza because he knows we love to eat down here. That's what we do. So, but it was awesome. It was, they really recognized us in front of the whole school. So that makes everyone, makes you proud. So, and then they did a lot of Facebook. There was a lot of Facebook posts, and it's so nice to see that we are really appreciated here. So many kind comments and just letting us know that sharing love with us. So I guess is what I'm going to say. But yeah, it was great. It really was. And then I had a banner made up, and it's actually hanging on the front of a building. So, but the first day of school, I said to everybody, I put a note on the board and I said, please, everybody stay just a few minutes this morning and let's get our picture taken. So we did our picture, and then we have a newsletter that goes out of the Dragon Tales. So in October's issue, that picture will be in there. So it was
That's awesome.
Really good.
And you're going to use, now you also mentioned, Julie, you're going to use this for recruiting. You're going to put it in when the buses are in the parade, you're going to have that banner out there.
Yep. We actually did one of the drivers put a Facebook post, and telling that we had won that. And she said, come join our winning team, to draw drivers in, so, and there was a lot of nice comments with that too. But we actually do a Christmas parade. Our little village here does a Christmas parade, and we decorate a bus. So we do it every year. It's fun. And so I'm going to put the banners one on each side, so that everyone really knows how good we are.
Can't let this be the best kept secret. I know I'm a PR guy, and that's like the worst expression in the world is, oh, we're like that restaurant that just closed. Oh, that was the best kept secret. Yeah, that's why it's closed, So Amy and Brad, how about you? Are you guys using this for recruiting purposes?
Yes. Obviously, I hate to say this out loud. I can say it now because no one's going to punch me because we're on Zoom, but I do not have a driver shortage. So we actually have people standing in line to work here because of our benefits and our pay package and our culture. So, but we definitely are using that as another boost for our department that this has been a good accolade for us, and it's been something we've been very proud of.
By the way, Amy, I was going to suggest you could forward this webinar to the administration. They can learn about the pizzas and the t-shirts and stuff, you know.
For
so.
sure, for sure. I'm very jealous.
And the thing about
Um,
it is all the drivers, some of the drivers will just bring stuff in, you know, and then when the drivers come in the afternoon, they're like, wow, look at all this food, this is awesome, you know, it just brings the spirits up, and, you know, it's kind of crazy how much really do eat.
Whenever, you know, Transfinder, we have these days of food. I don't remember what the celebrations we had. We don't really need a reason to celebrate, but you know, just fun. People would have fun bringing in crock pots, their own thing,
Yeah.
and then like you get to know like, oh, they're bringing in their sweetest meatballs. I love it when their sweetest meatballs.
Yeah.
How about you, Brad? Are you using this for recruiting as well?
Oh, 100%. You know, everything we send has the logo Top Transportation Teams 2025 on it. It's in my email signature. It's on everything we do. It's on our website. It's, you know, everything that we do, it's front and center in what we're doing. And, you know, I'm almost to Amy's spot. So last year when I came in, I think we started the year with 13 open routes and never got back to level. I started this year with 4. And you guys all know how the world of transportation works. So by the end of the month, if nothing crazy happens, which it will, I'll be at 0. But we know something will happen, right? So I'm almost there, Amy.
You can do it.
Yes.
You're definitely on the right path. You've only been there, what, this is your 2nd year?
Yes.
Yeah, you're on the path.
We had a question yesterday, and I'm trying to find it. It was about dealing. Do you guys remember the question? It had to do with I'm gonna have to look for it. Drop-offs, changes in routes, making changes in routes, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
communication.
how do you deal with that? Because you're trying to build a great culture, but yet you do have to make some of those tough decisions. So how do you do that in a way that's not gonna upset the apple cart too much? Brad, since you kind of remember, and then Julie, feel free to jump in, and Amy as well.
Yeah. So, you know, when it comes to routes and things like that, I'm blessed. I mean, we're larger, so I have 2 route people, right? 2 routing supervisors, and I have one that pretty much focuses on McKinney-Vento and special ed, because those are a whole different animal. And then I've got one that does all our regular ed routes. And we really do have an open door policy to our drivers. So as they work through that, they come in, they share, they give us feedback, things along those lines. But in reference to like the community and things along those lines, so I say since the beginning of the year, we received over 300 requests for us to evaluate a bus stop. And we tell them up front, hey, it's not going to be today. It's not going to be tomorrow. You know, we're going to work through our process, and we follow kind of the same recommendations everybody else does in reference to kind of national norms on how we establish a bus route and a bus stop and things like that in reference to 0.2 miles or 2 mile. We have a 2 mile, what we call a parent responsibility zone around the school is what we call it, which means the parents transport the students, you know. So we have all those little things in there, but ultimately we have an open door policy, and we have a great partnership with our drivers on that. But we also have a great partnership where we have a lot of main thoroughfares that come through our district. We have interstates and major US highways, and you know, we got 8-lane, 9-lane, 10-lane roads. You know, we've got all of that. So our police department is a huge benefit to us and saying, hey, yeah, they may be within that 2 mile parent responsibility zone, but there's a 6-lane US highway between them and the school. Right. So, you know, those things like that. So we really do, but, you know, so we try to be, you know, as open as we can, but ultimately we also have to run routes in a fashion that allows kids to not have to get on the bus at 6 a.m. to get to school at 7:45. So we try to keep that balance as well and understand. Plus, all of our buses pretty much are double. So they'll run an elementary, which starts at 7:45, and then our middle and high starts at 8:30. So they'll run their elementary, turn right around and go right back out. So we got to maintain those timing areas, and we got to look at how many drivers do we have. You know, so it's a balancing act, no doubt. I would love to wave a wand and say there's one magic answer to that, but there's not. There isn't, so you just got to work whatever your process is, you have to work your process, but be willing to be flexible in the end.
That's good. Anybody else have anything to add in that area? All right. I think it's gonna be our final question, and we got a couple wrap ups. How do you build on, whether you're a Patriots fan or not, which I'm not, but they won all these Super Bowls, and it was like, building a bad culture, turning a bad culture around may sound tough, but sometimes it can be, you can see more results quicker when you start doing things like listening to your employees and making changes and being responsive if they've never had that before. But maintaining, like Amy has talked about, this expectation. How do you build on this win, basically? And as I mentioned, no offense, Brad, but we do have two-time winners here, and so
I'll just go home now. I'm good.
I know next year we're gonna be talking again. I have no idea really, but so how do you build it? So what kind of, are you doing some, doing additional things? Are there things that you picked up along the way now and say, hey, we could even try that now? Every webinar I've ever done, I've always had panelists who say that, even the panelists have said, like, I didn't just give information, I learned stuff too, so I'm sure everything you do. So are there any tips that you would say, like, how do you build on something? I'm building on success. I'll start with Julie. We'll go right down the line here. Julie, Amy, and then Brad, and then I'll wrap it up kind of quickly, but just a couple of quick thoughts on that.
It's just listening to the drivers, and because there's a lot of times that you're busy in here and you're not really sure what the answer is, and you can walk out and say, okay, I got to get this kid. How, can anybody help me? Just listening to them, or just listening to any of the problems that they may have. Like one driver who came yesterday and he said, I got 7 turnarounds. He says, and I don't, and I said, okay, well, let's sit down and talk about it. Let's see where we could, maybe this bus could, grab these kids, or let's look at your turnarounds. Maybe we can find an easier one. So you just got to listen. That's all. Just listen to them, and, things will be great.
That's great. Thank you so much. Amy.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you definitely you can't stop listening. There are times when, like I said before, we're super task oriented, and someone will walk into my office and I'm in the middle of what they don't even know is a really detailed task, and probably something that's even jeopardizing some of the things that we have on our plate, like our benefits, or somebody's questioning our fuel quality, or it's a big administrative event that's happening right in front of me on my screen, but then a driver comes in and is standing in front of me. I have to put my pencil down. I have to and turn and look at them and make sure that that person in front of me is the priority, even though in the back of my mind I know I have a big administrative task to accomplish. And you just have to put people first. I like what Brad said, faith and family first. And that shows, like, if you cannot be a fake leader. You have to be transparent, and you have to be a real person in this world.
That's great. That is very good. Thank you. Brad?
Yeah, I missed the question. I was typing an answer, but just kind of listening what they were saying about
how do you build on your strength? Building on your success.
I'm going to give so I'm going to give an example of that. So day before school, I get a text message from the superintendent, because my office is not where their office is, and he says, I need to see you, ma'am. Okay, so that means I'm going to central office to see him, right? And it wasn't anything negative actually in the end, but he didn't say that in the message. But I get that text message, and I'm going through the front office saying, hey, I'm gonna step out, and I have a driver standing there saying, I need to talk to you. And I could tell no was not an option for me. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't, hey, I would love to talk to you. Can you come back at 1 o'clock? That wasn't an option in her face. So I met with her and let the superintendent know I would be there after I met with this driver. And I think as a leader, I'm lucky in that I have a superintendent and a leader in the central office that believes the same thing I do. So when I sent that to him, he knew I wasn't putting him off or being disrespectful. I was doing what he would have done. And I
Very
think that you have to be willing as a leader to do that. And I'm lucky. I know I am extremely blessed. The two immediate people in my central office are unbelievable. Two of the best people I've ever worked with in my life. And my superintendent is fantastic. And what's funny is that I think we figured out 18 years ago, we all almost ended up in the same building as working as administrators in a completely different district. But here we are now doing that.
That's funny.
So
What are the odds? I
yeah,
love it. Heather gave a quick note here that said, we listen to the drivers, let them know they are heard. You might not get your way, but you have been heard. That's really important. I think you guys
Yes.
highlighted that as well. Okay, got to wrap it up. I can't believe how quickly that always goes by. The time goes by so fast. I want to let you know we are opening up top transportation teams way earlier this year. Like I think, almost 6 months earlier. So we want to get even more participation. We want to hear more stories. We want to, help more and more districts just get better. I mean, one of the things that's great about this program is they're all anonymous. So you're going to get real feedback, and actually going out shortly for all those who have participated in the past who are wondering, like, where are our results? They're coming soon, I promise. And again, they're anonymous, but they'll give you a sense of what are some areas that maybe you're lacking in, and what are some areas that are really strong, and maybe you might be surprised. So, and then you can act on that. So, but if you just use that QR code there, you can just pull your phone up right here, and there you go. Or go to toptransportationteams.com. You will also see all of our winners, including the 3 folks here. There's also video of each of them sharing their little bit about their stories. So, and you can just start the whole process. Next slide, please, Arnold. We are always looking for stories, and that does not mean just Transfinder clients. I mean, we would love everybody to be a Transfinder client, but the whole purpose of the best practices webinar series was to learn from anybody who's doing something great that everybody else could learn from. Just tricks of the trade. And so I would love it if you just email mystory@transfinder.com. And who knows, I might ask you to be a webinar panelist. If you don't want to do that, just say, I'm giving you a tip here, but I don't want to be a panelist. That's fine. But maybe there's an opportunity for a white paper or something, and just always trying to learn more ways to do our jobs better. Next slide, please, Arnold. Thank you. Lastly, our next best practices webinar is October 16th. So always do it on Thursday, 11:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Eastern time. And so again, always free. And hope you can sign on. And we'll hear the other 3 winners of the Top Transportation Teams Award. And for now, I just want to thank again Julie, Amy, and Brad so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I want to congratulate you again on a well-deserved win. And I
Julie and
want to
Amy,
say,
I'll see you in Reno next year. Okay, I'm going to come back as a 2-time.
I like
Gotcha.
that. The gauntlet has been thrown down. And I just hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Thank
Take care.
you. Bye.